Hey guys, David here with a new review for The Walking Dead, and this one's going to be a little short because of two things. One, if you couldn't tell from my voice, I am sick for the, 50th time in my whole career of making videos here on YouTube. I'm sick yet again, so my voice is a little fucked up, and now I'm starting to run my nose. Other than that, I feel great, but as you can tell, it makes for a really bad video, so I'm going to keep this short, but also because this is a review for an episode of The Walking Dead where I feel like this could have been the perfect episode to have premiered back in February around Valentine's Day time, because it was all about the love and the passion and the trust and the relationship between Rick and Michonne as they go out to find guns in the episode titled Say Yes. And that was it. That was the extent of the episode. It's just them going out looking for guns. And here's the funny thing about this episode is that I really did like the humor that was injected into this episode, because The Walking Dead is putting in an awful lot of humor, an absurd amount of humor into their episodes these days, with characters that you normally don't expect to be humorous, especially Rick. Rick was funny in this episode. There were so many moments where not only Rick was able to kind of let himself loose a little bit, even though he was still being himself. Like, he was talking about how he couldn't sleep at night because he's still thinking about the things that happen with his friends and the things that the Saviors have done to them, and how that motivates them to keep fighting and to look for these guns so that they can get more people to fight with them. But at the same time, he's also allowing himself to know love, to find love in Michonne, and to also kind of find love in himself. That's what kind of leads him to give his little spiel at the end, where he knows that he's gonna have to let some people go because some people are gonna die. He's kind of desensitized to that at this point. But he has this little highlight moments where he's talking about the little pre-made food. He's like, this has chili and mac and cheese together. And just all these moments of him and Michonne laughing and the two of them together, they're really enjoyable. But at the same time, I'm keeping that fucking guard up because I just feel like they're setting us up here for some heartbreak. I would not be surprised, even if it deviates from the comics, I would not be surprised if we actually see Michonne get it by the end of this season, because we're focusing a little too much time on this little relationship between Rick and Michonne, and they're laughing a little bit too much, they're enjoying themselves a little too much with their little meals and their sexcapades, as we see in this episode. So there might be a hidden agenda here. They might be setting us up for something later on, a little heartbreak by the end, at least by the season finale of this 7th season of The Walking Dead. We could be seeing the death of Michonne, or I don't necessarily see Rick, but the one thing that I saw from a mile away is that we weren't going to see the deaths of either one of these characters in this episode. So whenever we see them being put in danger, especially with that fake out in that later on around the Ferris wheel with that deer, I'm like, come on guys, come on, don't do that. Don't glenify any of these characters anymore. We're past that point. You shouldn't be doing that anymore. The only thing that I can kind of take away from that little fake out is that it can kind of paint a picture in Michonne's head that anyone can go at any second, especially after seeing Glenn and Abraham get it at the beginning of the season. So in service of the character, I can kind of play devil's advocate and give it somewhat of a pass. But as to us as audience members, we're past that point. No more fake outs, please. Just please work on these characters and work on the pacing, because when it comes down to it, that's all these characters did. And since I knew that they were safe in this episode and that they weren't going to get it, there was no big thrill. I mean, it was kind of fun seeing them kind of compete one another to see who got the most walker kills. But besides that, it was just them going to the carnival, enjoying themselves, seeing what kind of things, kind of painting a picture in their heads as to what happened within this little carnival prior to the zombie outbreak. But other than that, it was just a little adventure to try to find more guns. Guns that weren't even enough for those assholes in the trash, which, by the way, those guys, that tribe or whatever, the homeless people that are being led to believe the Whisperers from the comics, at first I found them kind of interesting. But at the end of this episode, seeing all those guns and saying, oh, it's still not enough, and seeing the look on their, I don't know. It got me kind of angry that I'm hoping that these people are not just going to be flat out assholes, especially when I kind of put things into perspective and I look at their little test from 2 weeks back of putting Rick in that little pit with the spiked walker, which was a nice little set piece. But the motivation behind it, it is a little iffy, because you kind of put this guy in harm's way when you could have easily just told him to go get the guns, and that could have been a trial by fire all on its own. really stupid, really ridiculous, guys. Just please get your shit together, and hopefully these bunch will contribute more to the war to come instead of just being the smug assholes who are just making all these demands and speaking in broken English. Only other thing to take away from this episode is that Rosita is finally becoming mobile, and she has recruited the help of Sasha to take down Negan without any direct indication that that's what they're gonna do. They're like, yep, we're taking out Negan. Everybody else is just going around looking for guns. We're gonna take action, and I think it's a little funny that the two of them, not only are they connected by their past with Abraham, but the two out of the entire gallery of characters that we have amongst The Walking Dead right now, them two, with possibly Michonne, after my little theory there, are probably the most expendable that we can see by the end of this episode. By the end of the season, I mean. These two are the ones that I can definitely see going either one or the other, or maybe even both, by the end of the season. Maybe they can kind of put a dent amongst the saviors, or maybe they can kind of capture Negan, and maybe there's a twist with his character that I believe some people have said have happened in the comics, where Negan is not necessarily in charge anymore. We'll have to wait and see if that plays out, but I can definitely see these two characters kind of going out in a blaze of glory by the end of the season. And of course, out of the two, the only one that I'm not going to feel shit for is Rosita, because man, and the is, you got characters trying to be nice to her. You got Father Gabriel there trying to talk some sense into her, who was like, hey, bitch, you came to me. And then later on, Tara's just trying to help, and she's giving her attitude. Oh, God, out of the two, out of Sasha and Rosita, please let it be Rosita. On top of that, I'm starting to feel like the actress, I'm starting to have this realization that maybe the actress is not that good to begin with. When she finds that toy gun, it's just like, kind of like, damn it. I'm like, second take would have helped you out, honey. So overall, a fun and enjoyable episode to watch, especially when you got those sprinkles of humor in there that are very unusual and rare for The Walking Dead to do. And whenever they do that, is when they're gonna set us up for some heartbreak. So hopefully, I'll keep my guard up enough so it doesn't hurt as much. But it's nice to see that Rick is letting himself loose, especially when he finds comfort in Michonne, and that creates this power couple that I'm genuinely rooting for, despite the ominous future to come. But there's no beating around the bush that group's little incentive to say, oh hey, we need more guns, is possibly a writer's excuse to kind of stretch out the season even more, because hey, we still got like 2 or 3 episodes left to go before we even get close to the finale. So there is that. But the one thing that I am curious to see how that's going to spark this domino effect is Tara's little secret of there being this group, especially when she decides to tell Rick at the end. She says, hey Rick, I got something to tell you. Really want to see how that plays out, because that seems to be one of the most interesting things that this later half of the season has going for it. So I'm going to be giving Say Yes a high, very high 7 out of 10, only because it kind of takes away from the thrills knowing that Rick and Michonne, even with whatever fate has in store for them later on, they were safe in this episode, and I never found them to be in any kind of huge jeopardy. Whereas if you have put any other characters in there that were just as likable, but at the same time they weren't such mainstay characters, then maybe the episode would have had some broader teeth, so to speak. So anyways, those are my thoughts. I'm going to close out now because I really need to rest my voice in case you couldn't tell. Please let me know your guys' voice be heard in the comments below with your theories and speculations on this week's episode of The Walking Dead and what is to come. Like and share this video, and of course follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at DarkSpiderDavid, and continue to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button below for more reviews on The Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when it returns in April, as well as all the movies coming out in the movie March Madness of 2017. Until next time, guys, take care, and hopefully this week or so, once my voice gets better, because that's the only reason why I've been putting it off, I will post my spoiler discussion on Logan. So please be patient with that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, guys, take care.